Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Manoj. I am very immense and pleasure being here to talk about a beautiful subject called Python programming. Today, we are going to learn about an important concept called flow control. Now, at the end of this discussion, every student is going to understand what exactly this flow control all about. What is the need of learning about flow control and how flow control plays a very predominant role in real world implementation. And on the other side, we are also going to learn about what are the different flavors that are available in flow control and how do we program using the flow control. This is what the agenda of today's episode that we are going to learn all about. Now, taking everything into consideration, the first question that comes to all the students, what is the exact need of learning about flow control concept? What happens if I don't have this flow control concepts? Now, before we dive onto the flow control concepts, let us first understand, generally consider I have a program here. Now, where this program contains set of instructions. This is my Python program where I have a set of instruction. This is my first instruction, and then followed by second instruction, and third instruction, and then fourth instruction. I have five instructions that are to be executed. When I execute this program, when I give this program to the Python virtual machine, the Python virtual machine will start executing this program in an order called sequential order. That means first instruction will be executed, then followed by second instruction, then it will start executing third, then after fourth instructions will be executed. Taking everything into consideration, what we could observe is all this program is being executed in an order called sequential order, and all the statements are executed only one time. Every statement is being executed only once, and no statement is skipped in between. So what am I trying to project or convey in front of you is, in a traditional approach, whenever I try to execute the statements, all the statements are executed in a sequential order, one after the other. In this case, the first statement would be executed, followed by second statement, and then third statement, then fourth statement. That means I am trying to convey instructions are executed in a sequential order. And no instruction of 1 to 4, no instruction is skipped in between. Every instruction is being executed only once, and every instruction is executed without skipping. Some of the situation comes into the picture in real world where you want to execute a block of statement. Consider this is my program. Some of the situation is demanding where this program is divided into number of blocks. Consider this is my first block, and then I have this is my second block. Now some of the situation demands where I want to execute first block of statement skipping the second block of statement. That is my first case number 1. I want to execute first block of statement skipping the second block of statement. On the other hand, I have the second case. What is the second case? Now I would like to execute second block statements skipping the first block of statement. This is my first scenario that is in front of me. And then there is another situation that comes into the picture where I want to execute a block of statement repeatedly for 10 times. So in this case, if I want to execute the statement in this case, or in this scenario, if I want to execute, definitely sequential approach or traditional approach will not be suiting there. Now I have to have a remedy over there. My remedy here is using a beautiful concept in Python programming called flow control. Now using this flow control flow control tells how to execute the program. Using this flow control, depending on the condition, I can execute a block of statement for 100 times. Some of the situation I can execute this block of statements and skipping the second block of statements. On the other hand, I can execute the second block skipping the first block. Whenever I want to execute in such a scenario, definitely traditional approach will not suit. I have to work with flow control statement. That means flow control determines the block of statements that are to be executed depending on the condition. Now if the condition is true, certain block of statements are executed. If the condition is false, certain block of statements are not executed. As simple as that. Now in this case, taking everything into consideration, flow control statements are of different types. One is sequential control and other one is selection control followed by iterative control. This lecture will more focus on prudentially on iterative control statement, which are nothing but loop control statement. At the end of this discussion, we will be more focusing iterative control statement, how does it work, and how do we do program on that. Everything we are going to learn all about. My question to you all is, when do you use iterative control statement or loop control statement? Answer is as simple as that. Whenever we want to execute a block of statement iteratively for n number of times, we will be working with iterative control statements or loop control statements. On the other side, we also have conditional control statement. This conditional control statement will be working depending on our condition. Provided if the condition is true, block of statements are executed. If the condition is false, block of statements are not executed. In that case, we have different varieties of conditional control statements. We have if else, if, elif. These are all the flavors that belongs to conditional control statements. Now, our focus today is on iterative control statements. Now, what exactly iterative control statements all about? Iterative control statements are also called as loop control statements. They're also known as loop control statements. Now, when do we use these loop control statements? We use these loop control statements when we wanted to execute a block of statements repeatedly for n number of times. We will be working with iterative control statements. In that case, we have two flavors in iterative control statements. One is for loop and other one is while loop. We will start our discussion talking about while loop. While and for, both of them are iterative control statements. We use them to execute a block of statements iteratively for n number of times. For loop and while loop, both of them are almost the same, but their way of style is different. For loop is used to execute a block of statements repeatedly. At the same time, while loop is also used to execute a block of statements repeatedly. But what is the difference between them? That is what today we are going to learn all about. Let us begin our discussion with while loop. Now, while has its syntax while followed by condition, and then we have a block of statements, statement number 1, statement number 2, statement number 3. Let us now understand how exactly this while iterative control statement would be working. Now, first controller will come to conditional control, that means while, and this condition will be checked. If this condition is true, then controller will come inside and execute the statement 1, 2 and 3 statements are executed. And after executing these 3 statements, controller will once again get back to the condition and this condition will be checked. And once this condition is true for the second time, the 1, 2, 3 statements are executed for one more time. And the controller will once again get back to condition. If this condition is true, now statements 1, 2, 3 will be executed for one more time, and this process will keep on repeated until and unless this condition becomes false. Once this condition becomes false, the controller will come out of the loop. Now, taking everything into consideration, it is a programmer's responsibility to write this condition. After some n number of iteration, this condition should become false. If this condition is always true, that leads to infinite execution, infinite loop. That should not be happen in real world. So, taking everything into consideration, what am I trying to convey is while is a conditional control statement which is prudentially used when we wanted to execute a block of statements repeatedly for n times. And this is how the syntax looks like. Always the controller will come and check the condition. Provided if the condition is true, statement 1, 2, 3 are executed and controller will once again check the condition, and this process repeats. Now let us write a small program so that we will better understand. Now consider I have a general statement here. This statement number 1 is called my general statements, and then I have here while, and then followed by some condition is there, and then followed by statement number 2, statement number 3 and statement number 4, and then followed by statement number 5. Total in this program I have statement 1, statement 2, 3, 4, 5 statements are there. First controller will try to execute the statement number 1, and then it comes to while and checks the condition. If this condition is true, controller will come inside and try to execute statement 2, statement 3 and statement 4 are executed, and then controller will once again get back to the condition. If the condition is true for the second time and the statements 2, statement 3, statement 4 are executed and this process repeats. Once this condition becomes false, controller will come out and execute the general statements if there are any. Here I have the statement number 5 is a general statements that will be executed. Now to better understand, let us see the flowchart of the while, how it's look like. This is a flowchart of while. Now first statement will be executed. After executing, the controller will come to the condition and this condition will be checked. Provided if this condition is true, the controller will directly execute a block of statements and some increment and decrement updation will happen, and then once again the controller will check the condition. If this condition is true, for once again the statements are executed and updation is performed, and then control once again goes to the condition, and this process keep on repeated. Now once the condition becomes false, the controller will come out and execute the statements, general statements if there are any. Now I would like to write a small basic program so that we will better understand how exactly this while would be working. Now I have something called initialization. I is equals to 0. The process of giving an initial value to a variable is called initialization. I value is initialized with 0. And now I am writing a condition while I less than 10. This is my condition followed by colon, and then I would like to print I value. Print I. At the same time, I am also performing some modifications to I. I is equals to I plus 1. Now what exactly happens to this program and what would be the output? This program will print values from 0 to 9 values will be printed on the console. Let us see what exactly happens. The first I value will be set to 0. I value is set to 0 and the controller comes to the condition, and this condition will be evaluated. Condition I less than 10. Now 0 less than 10 condition is true, controller will come inside and try to execute the print statement. Now it is trying to print I value in the computer's memory is 0, so that 0 value will be printed on the console. After printing, it is performing some updation. I is equals to I plus 1. I value in the computer's memory is 0, that is substituted 0 plus 1, that becomes 1, and once again the value will be stored in I. Now updated I value is 1. Now after executing the second statement in while, the controller will once again get back to the condition. Now this condition is once again checked. Now I less than 2, which means 2 less than 10. The condition here is true once again. Once the condition is true, controller will come inside and execute this couple of statements for one more time. Now it is trying to print I value. What is I value in the computer's memory? I value in the computer's memory is 1, so it is printing value 1. After printing, it is performing I is equals to I plus 1 operation is performed, where I is equals to I plus 1 operation is performed. Now I value in the computer's memory is 1, so 1 plus 1, that becomes 2. That value 2 is stored in I. Now updated I value is 2. After executing this statement, controller will once again get back to write the condition, and this condition is checked. Now once this condition is true, now this time 2 less than 10, that means I value is 2 in the computer's memory, so 2 less than 10 condition is true, controller will come inside and execute one more time and print I value. What is I value in the computer's memory? I value in the computer's memory is true, that will be given for right print statement. Print statement will print the 2 value on the console. After printing, it is performing once again updation. I is equals to I plus 1. The same thing what it happened earlier, the same thing happens here as well. I is equals to I plus 1. Updated I value in the computer's memory is 2. 2 plus 1, that becomes 3. Value 3 will be stored in the variable I. Now the updated I value is 3. Now this loop once again get back to the condition, and now the third time or fourth time the condition is once again checked. and this time the condition is once again true. 3 less than 10 condition is true, and controller will come inside and the statements are executed one more time. What is that? Print I. I means it is printing I value. I value in the computer's memory is 3, so it is printing 3 value, and this process will keep on iterated, keep on executed. How long these statements are executed? These statements are executed unless and until this condition becomes false. So once the condition becomes false, the controller will come outside. So what is the thing, what is the story that the output it is giving? It is printing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on till 9 it will print. When I value becomes 10, the condition becomes false and controller will come outside. This is what the while loop will be working.